Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. I know it's sometimes tough to make time in our busy schedules for things such as these, but I think each of you will gain some valuable information today. Okay, so let's start off with a few introductions. My name is Candace Carter, and I'm a senior accountant with Southern Company Services. I've been with Southern Company for the last 20 years, working in various departments, but most of my time has been spent here in accounts payable. In 2015, I was assigned to the Special Projects Group and began working on our newest venture, Taulia. Here, I was assigned the role of project manager. I was overseeing and participating in the implementation of the Taulia project. Since our go live in late May of 2016, I've been responsible for adding new suppliers to the Taulia Business Exchange, as well as answering any questions or concerns and resolving any issues brought to my attention. I try to make things run as smoothly as possible. So if you have any questions or concerns or any problems, please give us a call. I'm going to turn it over to Brian and let him talk a little bit about himself.
Thank you, Candace. Hello, everyone. This is Brian Murphy. I'm a director in KPMG's Procurement and Operations Advisor Group, and I also act as our Taulia Solutions Leader. KPMG has a strong alliance relationship with Taulia, and we work closely with Taulia to help their customers like Southern and the suppliers of their customers to help realize value from the solution. Today, I'm excited to discuss with you how suppliers can benefit from a solution such as this. Taulia is truly a win-win for both Southern and its suppliers, and I look forward to sharing more about that with you today.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, so in our agenda today, we'll be covering the following topics. 1, how Taulia will relate to Southern Company in regards to invoicing and payment. 2, how the Taulia Business Exchange can help your organization through early payments. And 3, how does the Taulia Business Exchange work, and what do suppliers need to know? Just to let you know, we'll be monitoring the chat sessions of the webinar tool, and we'll do our best to answer your questions during the webinar. If we're unable to address them all, we will reach out to you via email. And finally, this session will be recorded so that you can share it with your colleagues or listen to the playback at a later time as needed. As most of you know, Southern Company offers various methods to submit your invoices. We have email, U.S. mail, fax, as well as other various electronic sources, such as CAMP and LARA. Now, we've added additional options through Taulia, which Brian will demonstrate later in this call. Southern Company has chosen the Taulia Business Exchange to enable electronic invoicing and payment features for our suppliers and providers. All of you should have received an invitation to enroll into the new supplier portal. Many of you are already enrolled, and we appreciate that. But if you've not yet enrolled, then we encourage you to do so. Some of the many benefits of the platform include the ability for suppliers and providers to create an invoice from anywhere at any time. Suppliers and providers just need to access the supplier portal and generate the invoice. Efficiently processing of invoices, which in turn promote consistently paying our suppliers and providers in a timely manner. Fast, easy, sustainable, and cost savings versus the traditional paper invoice. No further need to print invoices, purchase envelopes, or pay for postage. By handling the transaction completely online, both Southern Company and our suppliers and providers will go green by reducing their paper consumption and experience cost savings. Save money on processing costs per invoice. Immediate and accurate invoice delivery. Proof of invoice delivery. Faster dispute management and handling, which will improve relationships with customers, suppliers, and providers. Reduce the need for calls related to invoice status or lost invoices. Eliminate manual input errors, and better visibility and control, which also enables stronger cash management. Once a supplier is enrolled into the Taulia Business Exchange, they will be able to review approval status of invoices, see the payment information, view a copy of their PO, and based on the need for capital, can choose to be paid early on a single invoice or choose to be paid early on all invoices submitted to Southern Company. Okay, let's talk about our partnership with Taulia. Why did we choose Taulia? I'm going to be honest. We are an organization that's always growing, and we too have demands that we are trying to meet and operational processes that need to be more efficient. The ability for our suppliers to have real-time visibility into their invoice and payment statuses through the Taulia Business Exchange was and is still very appealing to us. But in all we do, we try to consider the needs of you, our suppliers. The fact that Taulia is free for our suppliers is very important to us. Also, Taulia is an industry leader in the utility space, Many of you are already using Taulia, so from the feedback that we've received, it's been nothing but positive. Finally, because we are a business, we know what it's like to do business as a supplier. We know that getting paid timely and having access to capital is what keeps our business running and afloat. The fact that Taulia allows suppliers to control their own cash flow through early payment options made the decision to partner with Taulia an easy one. We hope that you will enjoy using the Taulia Business Exchange. Now I'll turn the time over to Brian so he can explain the features more in depth.
Thanks, Candace. So before we dive into a demo of the solution, you might be asking yourself as a supplier, why should I use Taulia? Why spend my time doing this? How does it benefit me? How does it benefit my business? I believe if we share with you some of the feedback we've heard from other suppliers who love Taulia, this may help answer that question. So we're going to go through really 5 key themes here. The first is around ease of use. A lot of suppliers use Taulia simply because it is easy to use. First and foremost, there are no fees charged to suppliers. You don't have to pay to use this tool. Once in the tool, it's simple to navigate and find your way around. Viewing invoices and electing to be paid early are as easy as a click. It's completely optional and flexible for you. Use it when you need it. You as the supplier, you're the one in control. The next theme is really around better visibility to both invoice status and payment status. Suppliers really love having the real-time, 24/7 visibility into the status of their invoices and payments through the Taulia Business Exchange. So no longer are suppliers required to kind of send an email to accounts payable at Southern or get on a phone and call somebody at accounts payable in Southern and ask the question, well, is my invoice approved or not? You can simply log into the Taulia Business Exchange at any point in time and see the approval status of your invoice as well as when that invoice is expected to be paid. So suppliers really love this feature. Another theme is around just the ability to create invoices electronically and easily. Suppliers continuously report amazement at how easy it is to create electronic invoices in the Taulia Business Exchange. Whether you're flipping a purchase order to an invoice or creating a new non-purchase order invoice, the process is simple. Creating an invoice in Taulia means that once you hit click, once you've submitted it, the process for approval and payment begins at that point in time. So no longer are you waiting, kind of stuffing an invoice in a letter and mailing it off and having that paper invoice processed. It's all electronic now and automated and much more efficient. Next one's around improving working capital. So if you're a growing business and you're looking to reinvest cash back into your business, or you're looking to reduce time between collecting AR and paying accounts payable and payroll, access to cash through the early payment feature of the Taulia Business Exchange could be a great option for you. It's effectively yet another form of financing at your disposal. And last is payment predictability. Taulia might make sense for your company if it's very metrics driven, especially when it comes to finances. There are some interesting features you can use in the Taulia Business Exchange to ensure cash is collected when you want it and when you need it. Improving financial metrics, including reducing days of sales outstanding, also known as DSO, or balancing the books before end of quarter or end of year. On the topic of early payments, it might be helpful if I provide a high-level overview of how this works. Here, we have an example of a net 60 invoice, which gets approved on day 15, but is going to sit there waiting for payment for 45 days. You as a supplier, you may desire access to that payment sooner for one of the reasons we described previously. You can log into the Taulia portal, select the day you would like to be paid. In this example, say on day 30, and you would collect that payment in exchange for a small discount, which is calculated on a sliding scale. That discount is made known to you at the time that you elect to be paid early. And again, you're electing to be paid early. This is not a requirement. Again, I'll show you how all this works in just a few moments. Before we dive into the demo itself, let's talk a little bit about the 3 options that are available to you as a supplier for early payment. The first is the most straightforward, which is the single payment option, and then that specifically is to accelerate one invoice for early payment. This is great for suppliers with a lower invoice volume or in the case of the supplier, only occasionally needs access to capital. The next method is what we call Cash Planner, and this is where you can accelerate multiple invoices at a single time. This is ideal for a supplier with high volume, as you probably don't want to click on multiple invoices in the portal. You also have the option to use the Cash Planner tool, which I'll demo in a few minutes, which is a really neat feature. It's also helpful if you are trying to ensure your invoices are paid before the end of a quarter or end of the year. It can really be helpful for that. Third method is what we call cash flow. And finally, there is automated early payment. You can turn on what we call cash flow, which automatically accelerates every single invoice as soon as it's approved. This is great for those that want to set it and forget it, or maybe those that I talked about earlier that want to minimize the cash flow gap. Again, cash flow is something that can automate all invoices. However, you're free to enable it or disable it at any point in time, and we'll show that in the demo here shortly. At this point, I think it makes sense to just dive right into the demo. So why don't we go ahead and jump into the Taulia Business Exchange. While I do that, and it'll take me just a second here, we're really going to go over a couple different things. The first of which is how to create a purchase order and non-purchase order invoice. We'll show you how to check invoice status and payment status. We'll also show you how to take an early payment on an invoice, and we'll show you the cash planner and cash flow methods of taking early payment as well. Finally, we'll also show you how to manage users and preferences. So let's dive into the demo and see further.
Okay, so hopefully you can now see my screen and hear me. I've moved over to the demo environment here. I know the audio may be a little bit different, but please bear with us if you need to adjust your volume accordingly. What you're looking at here is the Taulia Business Exchange login page. And you can access this through a number of different ways. The easiest way is typing in portal.taulia.com into your web browser, and then going to the upper right-hand corner and clicking the login text, which will then bring you to this screen. Logging in is pretty straightforward. It's your email address along with your password. If you've forgotten your password, there's a handy link here, Forgot Password, which will walk you through the steps for resetting your password. There's also a handy link, Need Help, which will take you to Taulia support for further assistance. So let's log in. As you can see, we're on the main page here, and this will look slightly different than Southern's page because this is a demo environment. We've tried to mirror Southern's site as much as possible, but there may be some slight differences, and you may pick up on that. But let's walk through some of the key features here. So if we go to the top, the quick access links, you'll see we have My Purchase Orders as the first option. We have Create Invoice. We have My Invoices. We have My Payments. And we have Cash Planner. Below that, we have a dozen or so invoices. So you can see the invoice status of those as well as some early payment offers. We'll get into that a little later. And you can also see latest purchase orders and the status of those purchase orders. If you had a message from Southern Company, that would appear up in this area up here. And you can also access that by clicking on customer announcements as well. So let's start with My Purchase Orders, and you can do that by clicking on My POs in the quick access area, which will bring you up a list of your purchase orders. So this is a view of all your Southern Company purchase orders. Click on the arrow next to PO status, and these are all the varying types of PO statuses that are available. Again, Southern Company's configuration may be slightly different, but you can sort by any of these and search. You can also search by purchase order number and try and find a purchase order that way. So if you can also click Advanced Search, in which case you can see a number of other options, be it branch or customer or PO value range or PO date range. You can also sort the results by page, the number of results. So let's do a search here. And you'll see, oops, because I had a PO number in there and also new, and that PO was not new, nothing came up. Okay, so now I've searched for all new POs and selected one to bring up. And what you can see is all of the various information. You've got header detail, you've got the operating company within Southern you're working with, you've got the PO number, the date, all the relevant header information. I can also see an image of the purchase order if I want to do that. I can do that by hovering over here by View PO. It'll ask you the type of format that you'd like to see the image in. I'll choose PDF and click Download, in which case you'll download a image of the in purchase order rather, and there it is. Let's assume I'm the supplier and would like to create a purchase order, an invoice on this particular purchase order. So I'm going to click on this particular purchase order, which will bring up the purchase order detail, and you see in there's a Create Invoice button. And there's another way to create an invoice that I'll show later as well. But in this case, we're going to flip this purchase order into an invoice. So we'll just click on the Create Invoice button, which brings up another screen. And you can see creating an invoice is going to be as simple as inputting your invoice number in that first field, selecting the relevant date. Supply date is present, but it's not required, but feel free to populate that as well. Customer tax identifier will appear in your portal and may or may not auto-populate. Again, it's not a required field. The ship from and ship to addresses are required and should auto-populate. Feel free to put in a customer contact. And again, customer tax identifier will appear, and depending on your privileges, you may not be able to see that tax information. You're able to change the ship to address, or ship from address rather. Again, all this stuff is stored, so if the address you see is not in there, you're going to need to contact Southern Accounts Payable to update some of that information, or in some cases you're able to update it yourself. At this point, you can address the line item section. So you can update the quantity in the Southern portal. However, you're not able to update the unit price. So this means if you have a blanket or a service PO and the unit price is $1, but the price is $1,500, you need to change the quantity to $1,500. You're not able to change that unit price. It won't allow you to do that. You can also add a delivery note. And in the additional items section, you can address miscellaneous fees or freight. Once everything looks good, you can save as a draft invoice, or you could submit invoice. So we're going to click Submit. It's going to confirm that we actually want to do that, and we do, so we submit invoice. And we're done. That's how easy it is to flip a purchase order to an invoice. So let's take a look at how to create an invoice by not flipping. So a non-purchase order invoice. Non-purchase order invoices are essentially just as simple. Instead of clicking on a purchase order, you can select the Create Non-Purchase Order Invoice at this button here on the right. You'll then select the operating company you're working with. Again, in your portal, it'll show Southern Company operating companies. Once you select the first field, the second field should auto-populate. Again, you're going to create the invoice number, which is the same thing as the purchase order flip. An invoice date. Supply date, again, is optional. Any reference number or customer contact. With a non-purchase order, you'll need to input your Southern Company contact information in here. For the purposes of the demo, let's put Candace Carter. So it's ckcarter@southernco.com. You can change the ship from address by using the pull down here. Again, this must be pre-configured in the system. You can't just enter a new address. Same with ship to address. You can key in your ship to address, unlike the ship from address. So you'll put in your shipping information in here manually. We'll just cancel in the interest of time. And then remit address. So you can put remit to in here. Again, this can be pre-configured, so auto-populated, and click apply. And here you can start putting in your line items, so we can free text a description here around what we're ordering. So we're going to order triple strength rope. We're going to put a quantity of 1,000, and we're going to key in the unit price of $5 per, for a total of $5,000. We can put in a delivery note if we want. We can add freight or miscellaneous fees down here at the bottom, and when we're ready, we can submit the invoice. And again, just as easy as that, that invoice is created. Now we can go in and look at all of your various invoices that you have with Southern Company by going to My Invoices. You can sort, for example, by unpaid. You can type in a specific invoice number and search for that. Or you can do an advanced search, which gives you slightly more powerful options. You can also download the invoice in various formats. And you can see the status. Most of these are approved. A couple of them are still in the process of submitting. You can see payments. In some cases, the payment's been requested early. In other cases, it's not. In other cases, you have the option to be paid early if you so choose. Let's sort by invoices that have early payment available. And again, I've left the invoice number in there. Let's pull that out and do that search again. And you can see I've got quite a few invoices here that we could be paid early on. So let's say I want to be paid early on this particular invoice. I click the Pay Me Early button, which brings up this box. You can basically see what your invoice amount is here and your terms at the top. Then you can select when you want to be paid. And this is dynamic, so you can click, being paid on the 28th, for example, the 27th, 26th, whichever you're interested in being paid, and you can see the associated discount with being paid on that date. So it's entirely up to you on which day you want to be paid and based on what the cost is. Once you're ready, you click Submit, and you can see it's been confirmed here that your early payment has been successfully submitted and you'll be paid early on that particular invoice. Let's now return to the home screen where we can go over the cash planner feature. So there's really three ways to be paid early through the Taulia platform, and we're going to go through all three of them. The second is cash planner. Now you can navigate there either by going through the cash planner button at the top of the screen, or you can press the quick link on the home page. So let's press the quick access link here to go into cash planner. Cash Planner is a feature in Taulia that allows you to take multiple early payments at once. So the first example was a single invoice. This is an example of multiple invoices. And it allows you to effectively pick a date where you want cash, tell the system exactly how much you need. So basically a date by which you need cash and the amount, and then you run Cash Planner. And it's going to give you a number of specific invoices that'll help you achieve your goal here of getting cash by a certain date. It'll also show you the discount associated with making that happen. This is really helpful at the end of quarters, at the end of fiscal years, when you know you need to plan for a specific date that you need cash by. And this tool helps you sort through that. So you can select to be paid early on these three invoices, for example. And again, it's the same outcome as the single invoice, except you're being paid, in this case, early on three particular invoices. So that's the cash planner method. The third method is what we call cash flow, which you can navigate to from the top bar here. And cash flow is turning on early payment discounts for all relevant invoices. And you can see there's a slider bar up top that says cash flow enabled yes. You can slide that to no if you didn't want to be paid early. And you can slide down this bar here to determine exactly how many days you want to be paid early. Now, once you do enable cash flow, you need to come back in here and toggle it just like this to disable it. I know we get a common question around how to turn that back on and off. So here's how you do that. And so that's the third method. That's cash flow. So let's talk about how we can add users to the portal. So there's basically 4 types of roles that are possible. And you can do this through the user manager in the settings in the upper right. You can create a new user just by adding them in. And if you were to add, for example, Sarah Larson here at kpmg.com, and Sarah and her last name, you can create the user, but it's important to note there are 4 types of roles. Admin, who can take any actions, including adding new users. Read-only, can only view certain data like invoice, PO, or payments. They cannot access display screens or bank account information, and they cannot request early payment. Billing is like a finance manager, but can't view bank accounts or tax IDs. And finance manager is like an administrator, but cannot create new users. So we're going to create our new user as a finance manager here. Click yes, or if we were to click create user, it would add them down below. You can also change the roles of an existing user. You can also delete users or deactivate users. And you can also go in here and reset password. If somebody's having trouble accessing the portal, you can have their password reset, which is a useful feature. The last bit of functionality I want to cover before we wrap up the demo is just how to control the email settings, so the types of communications that you're going to receive from the portal. And you can control the email types like new purchase order, for example, early payments available, invoice rejections. Again, your screen may be slightly different depending on Southern's configuration, but in general, you can see how this works, where you can toggle on the different types of emails that you'll receive. A lot of customers prefer just to come into the portal, or suppliers rather prefer to come into the portal to see status rather than receive email alerts. Others like to receive all the email alerts. It's entirely up to you and configurable here. One last thing before I do want to send it back to Candace is you can also see Southern Company specific frequently asked questions in the Southern Company portal. And again, this is demo, so we don't have any here, but Southern does have theirs populated with useful information around the tool. So I think go out there and use that as a resource. You can also contact Taulia support at any time by clicking the Need Help or the Contacts Us from the Taulia webpage. And again, plenty of resources out there as well on how to use the portal. And with that, we've concluded our demo portion of this. I know I've rushed through it, but we're on a short window of time. So let's switch back into the other system where we can wrap things up.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to hand it back to Candace to cover off on some frequently asked questions we typically receive around onboarding to the tool itself or using the tool and its features. Candace?
Thank you, Brian, for your demonstration. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to go over today is just some of our most frequently asked questions. Let's just go ahead and dive right into those. Okay, many of you have asked, how do I enroll if I haven't already? Well, if you're attending today's webinar, sometime in the past you've received an invitation to enroll. But if your email looks like mine, it may have gotten lost somewhere. Okay, all you have to do now is just simply contact Southern Accounts Payable, and you can email us at g2scstau@southernco.com or call us at area code 205-257-2223, option 1, and then option 1 again, and we will resend your invitation. Okay, my next question is, now that I've turned on cash flow, I need to turn it off. How do I go about doing this? Well, as Brian showed you, you can control this in your settings options. Simply select cash flow and then turn it off or on. Okay, what if I have another individual within my department or organization that needs to gain access? Well, that too is very simple. Go to your settings, click on User Manager, and here you can assign them a user-specific role and send them their invitation. Now that you've enrolled into the portal, you're starting to receive some email notifications from Taulia. Some of those you may not need. So you can control these by going to Settings, My Email Settings, and turning off or leaving on the ones that you actually need. That's all the questions that I have. Now, you can always reach out to Taulia support at support.taulia.com with portal questions. Or if you have a question for Southern Accounts Payable, you can call us again at area code 205-257-2223. That'll be option 1 and then option 1 again. We've been attempting to answer your questions in the chat section throughout the webinar. If we didn't get a chance to answer your specific question, we can follow up with you via email. Thanks again for joining us, and thank you for being a valued Southern Company supplier. Have a wonderful day.